So, you saw the Zeth video too. Good. Get ready to jettison your crew into space, learn to hate tariffs, and violate the laws of physics. And ethics. You can call me Ezekiel. This is Starsector. Let's jump in. Welcome to Starsector. When you start a new game, you'll have a bunch of parameters to customize, including what fleet you start out with. Pick whatever you want. The last thing to do before starting the game is allocating your first skill points. On the left are the skill categories. A skill's level can't be higher than its category's level. I find these skills to be the most useful. Now we're ready to take on the galaxy. Even though the galaxy is randomly generated, the core worlds are always the same, with maybe an extra planet or star system from the random generator. Inhabiting the core worlds are 6 regular factions and 2 hostile factions. The political map looks something like this. Something to note is that the factions can only control individual planets, not whole star systems, so multiple factions can be present in the same system. You interact with the galaxy through your fleet. The combined stats of your ships determine how much fuel, cargo, and crew it can carry. The most important kind of cargo is supplies. It's used to maintain your ship's combat readiness. Combat readiness isn't exactly an accurate description though. While it is true that low combat readiness makes a ship worse in combat, it's more a representation of a ship's overall condition. Ships with low combat readiness will suffer damage and eventually be destroyed. To do anything in Starsector, you need money. A great way to make money in the core systems is trade. Starsector features a simulated economy. That means supply, demand, NPC traders, and everything else you'd expect. When visiting a planet, you can bring up information on the producers and consumers of goods. When you find one planet with a surplus and another with a deficit, you'll have found your trade route. But wait, what's with this stupid tariff? In Starsector, the open market is subject to a 30% tariff. Even the best trade routes stop being profitable when the tariffs are that high. Luckily, the black market exists. Not only is the black market exempt from tariffs, but it also includes illegal goods. The downside to using the black market is that you'll lower your standing with a faction in charge of the planet. This means their patrols will stop you more often. If they catch you with illegal goods, they'll confiscate them, and you'll lose even more standing with that faction. If your standing gets too low, you'll have problems. Luckily, there's a way to avoid government scrutiny. This brings us to navigation. Getting around the sector has a surprising amount of depth. The first issue you have to deal with is your transponder. When in civilized space, it's illegal not to have it on. In practical terms, having the transponder on does 2 things. First, it increases your detection range. You can see how close you are to being detected by other fleets from the pulse emanating from them. Second, any business you do, including on the black market, will be tracked. This means that the only time your transponder should be on is when you're engaged in legal business in civilized space. Otherwise, keep it off. Next is your burn type. The first type is going dark. When you go dark, your speed will be cut in half, but so will your detection range. Overall, good for sneaking past patrols. The next option is sustained burn. It massively increases your fleet's speed, but it lowers your maneuverability. You also have to stop moving to activate it. This makes sustained burn best for long distance travel. Last is emergency burn. It does more or less the same thing as sustained burn, but it doesn't affect maneuverability, and you don't have to stop to activate it. However, its effects are only temporary. This makes emergency burn useful when trying to pursue an enemy or when you need to make an escape. To get between star systems, you have to go into hyperspace. Traveling in hyperspace is the same as in regular space, but moving burns antimatter fuel. If you run out of fuel, you'll get pulled into the nearest gravity well. Usually this will only damage your ships, but if the gravity well happens to be a black hole, you're screwed. To get into hyperspace, you need to use a jump point. To get back into real space, you also have to use a jump point. Planets and jump points orbit stars in real time, so every time you arrive in a system, nothing will be where it was last time. To avoid the limits of jump points, you can use the transverse jump ability, which lets you exit a system from anywhere. Regular trading is great and all, but there's a better way to make money. Missions. First, we'll talk about trade missions, of which there are 2 kinds. Regular trade missions and trade contracts. Missions originate from a planet. The further away you are from that planet, the longer it'll take you to receive the mission. When you get a mission you like, accept it immediately. Missions go away after a certain amount of time. To complete a trade mission, you'll have to buy whatever the mission asks for and deliver it to the listed planet. The reward for these contracts is always multiple times the market value, so it doesn't matter too much where you get the goods from. Trade contracts are found in bars. If the text says something about a concerned man or woman, that's a trade contract. Unlike trade missions, a contract gives you the goods that need to be transported. All you need to do is deliver them. So they're really delivery missions. If you're sick of the core worlds, you should consider exploration. Exploration involves going to unexplored systems and looking for ancient treasures and habitable planets, all the while trying not to get killed by the Remnant. You'll want to bring a lot of fuel and supplies with you. Running out of anything while away from the core worlds is a death sentence. Another thing you'll want to bring with you is heavy machinery. You'll need it to survey planets and perform scavenging operations. There are 4 ways to make money exploring. The first is surveying planets. You'll need a certain amount of crew, supplies, and heavy machinery to perform a survey. Larger and more dangerous worlds are more costly to survey. At the end of a survey, you'll get the survey data for the planet, which you can sell. The better the planet, the more valuable the data will be. If the world has ruins on it, leave the survey menu and return to the world. You can explore the ruins for valuables. Some ruins can have a lot of valuables. Next are domain-era treasures. These are usually where you'll find the best loot, including AI cores. Sometimes they'll have automated defenses. As soon as you destroy the defenses, you can begin salvaging. Third are debris fields and derelict ships. To scavenge a debris field, fly into it and activate the scavenge ability. If you find a derelict ship, you can either salvage it for materials or try to recover it, in which case it'll join your fleet. Fourth and last are exploration missions. You get exploration missions the same way you get trade missions. Usually these missions are to survey a planet or explore a domain-era probe. These missions are great because not only do they direct you to a planet or probe worth exploring, but you also get to keep what you find and get paid to do it. By the way, if you spend enough time hanging around bars, you might find a special mission. A very, very special mission. Combat in this game is good. Really good. It only took me 20 hours to figure that out. You'll see why that is in a bit. The sector is a dangerous place. Combat's inevitable. Fighting with civilian transports and fuel tankers probably isn't the best idea, so you'll want to include dedicated combat ships in your fleet. Combat ships come in many sizes, from tiny tugs to massive capital ships. These ships will usually specialize in roles like combat carrier, missile boat, or even a physics-violating phase ship. Ships can then be further customized with weapons and modifications. In combat, you control your flagship directly, and the rest of your fleet from the tactical map. Each ship has a shield and a flux capacity. If a projectile hits the shield, it won't do any damage. However, each time the shield blocks an attack, the ship will build up flux. Flux also builds when a ship fires its weapons. If the flux gets too high, the ship will overload. While overloaded, the ship is defenseless. To prevent this, a ship can vent its flux early. That's all simple enough, but combat gets really interesting when capital ships get involved. You see, shields usually aren't powerful enough to protect whole ships. This means they need to be directed toward the enemy. Because of this, smaller, nimbler ships have an important role to play. While the capital ships distract each other, escorts can sneak behind the enemy's shields and deal damage directly to their hulls. Battles like this are where the combat really shines. That's also why it took me so long to get the combat. In the early game, you'll be too poor to afford capital ships, and battles between only escorts aren't any fun. When you finally do get a fleet big enough for a proper fight, you should consider bounty hunting. Factions post bounties on pirates, deserters, and stations. To get the reward, you'll have to find the target using the hints the bounty gives you. Then you'll need to beat the target in a battle. You can see the composition of a target's fleet from their bounty. As your wealth grows, you might start to ask, why are these jerks in charge? Why aren't I in charge? Luckily, you can be. You can create colonies on uninhabited planets. While you can create a colony anywhere, you'll want to consider the planet's stats. A high hazard rating means the colony will be more expensive to maintain. The accessibility rating determines how easy it'll be to import goods and export products. Last, you'll want to make sure the planet has good and plentiful natural resources. Usually Terran and similar to Terran worlds will fit these criteria. Even with a good planet, starting a colony isn't easy. The second a colony becomes profitable, it'll get attacked by pirates, pathers, and even the regular factions. A successful attack will lower the planet's stability. If the stability gets too low, the colony will decivilize and be destroyed. You don't want that to happen. To keep your colony secure and profitable, you'll want each colony to have these buildings: a way station and an upgraded spaceport to increase accessibility, an orbital station, patrol HQ, and weapons batteries to increase stability and massively improve the colony's defenses. By the way, all 3 of these buildings can and should be upgraded, except for the patrol HQ. Upgrading a patrol HQ takes an industry slot. On most colonies, you'll want that slot for something else. And last, a comms array to increase stability. Although these are built on stable locations found in the system, not in the colony itself. Once a colony is secure and stable, you can invest in its industry. A large population means a planet's industries will produce more goods and have more slots for new industries. Larger colonies will also have better defenses. While a colony's population will grow on its own, you can increase the population faster by spending money on growth incentives, and by declaring the colony a free port. Free ports also increase accessibility, but they'll lower the stability. The last thing a planet needs is an administrator. You can administer planets yourself, though to do it well you'll need a lot of skills. Why waste your precious skill points when you can hire someone else to manage the planet for you? If human administrators aren't your style, you can put an AI in charge. You can also put AIs in charge of individual industries. Just remember that this is extremely illegal, and the AI might have its own ideas on who should be in charge. Doing all this is expensive though. Really expensive. I'd recommend holding out on founding colonies until you have several million credits. So now our colonies are set up, secure, and profitable, but the pirates keep attacking them, and these Pather cells sound like trouble. If the pirates and Pathers keep giving you problems, you can give them problems right back by destroying their bases. If you're having trouble finding these bases, try visiting a bar on one of the affected planets. There's a good chance that someone there will send you in the right direction. Well, congratulations! You now know everything you need to know in order to play Starsector right now. Since this video is a little on the short side, I want to dedicate this last part to tips and tricks. First is to save often. This game has no autosave feature. It sucks to lose hours of progress because you forgot to save. Getting places can take a while. You can hold a shift key to speed up time. Unfortunately, this doesn't work in battles. While you're out exploring, fire off a sensor burst every once in a while. You can find very valuable things doing this. Many unexplored systems have remnant fleets in them. They seem to have something to do with the Tritachyon Corporation. Regardless of where they come from, they're dangerous. However, destroying them often yields AI cores. If you find a remnant fleet that's weaker than yours, or even better, a lone ship, attack it. The AI cores alone are worth it. When selling AI cores, never sell them on the market. Open up the comms directory and sell it to someone there. I like selling to Tritachyon because they pay out 3 times more than any other faction. Since Tritachyon are coming up so much, I might as well tell you a bit of lore about them. According to their description, the company's charter self-modifies based on algorithms. This might mean that the whole corporation is one massive AI that uses humans as part of its algorithms. Anyway, back to tips. If you get stranded, never spam distress calls. Only use it once and wait. If you use it more than once, the game will just leave you stranded. If you're wondering where your shields are during battles, you have to right-click to activate them. Ships in your fleet will perform better when commanded by officers. You can find officers in a planet's comms directory. You don't have to travel to your colonies to manage them. You can manage them remotely from the command menu. In fact, you can do all sorts of cool things from the command menu. And last, check out the mods. There's all sorts of great stuff out there. So yeah, that was Starsector. Feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments. I'll get back to you pretty quick. Up next, we're going back to Victoria 2, but this time with a bit more flavor. See you then.